There we go. Looking pretty good. Okay. Welcome everyone to the Tuesday Night Raw Q&A. So I'm here to answer your questions about going raw with your canines. See if I can type in the chat here. I am on a new microphone, so if anyone is out there in the world, if you could let me know if you can hear me and how does it sound. And if it sucks, I can go ahead and unplug it and we can just continue on. So again, welcome everyone to Tuesday Night Raw Q&A. If you were here last week, we had talked about antibiotics just a little bit. And I said something that made me think that I should probably go look that up. Like, is that actually true? Or am I just perpetuating a lie, basically, because I've never looked it up. And that was antibiotics given by injection with animals. People do injections and infusions. I don't know how often animals get antibiotics infusions. I'm sure they do. Is easier on the gut biome. And I just, instead of doing oral, which has to be digested through the liver and all that. And I was wrong. From what I researched, and granted, I didn't get as much done as I wanted to, because that's just how it goes. Doing an injectable antibiotic is not any easier on the gut biome. So I wanted to go over just a little bit of antibiotics in general, just because, why not? And this comes from just a veterinary website all about conventional definitions of antibiotics, and that antibiotics only affect bacteria. So keep that in mind with your animals if they have a viral or they have a parasitic or metabolic issue. That's not a bacterial infection. A lot of times vets will offer antibiotics as some answer to give people, and to give them something like they're doing something for their animals. But you might want to be better educated and ask more questions about that before just taking whatever they're handing you. So you want to have a bacterial infection. And there's a bunch of different antibiotics. And I think we all know that. Like, there's different classes of antibiotics, and we have new fancier ones all the time. You know, and penicillin was the original, right? That was the original magic drug. That, I think that one, they work breaking down the cell wall. So the bacteria actually has to have a cell wall for that one to work. Penicillin and amoxicillin. So each class of antibiotics work differently. And not all of them kill all the same antibiotics. So if you have antibiotics for one pet for a procedure, and you think your other pet has an infection, you may not just want to go ahead and administer those yourself to the other animal. They A, may not work, and B, can be toxic to the microbiome. So, you know, you do need to know what types of bacteria you're dealing with and what antibiotics work on those bacteria. And you must give it in a proper amount. And then there's like 3 paragraphs here, and they're all a little different about you need to finish the dose, right? You need to finish. If it was given for 7 days, you need to give it for 7 days. And granted, this is, traditional way of curing an infection using antibiotics. So you don't create superbugs. You really do want to finish it. You know what? Maybe I need to search that. Do you really need to? Is that what's really causing the superbugs out there? Or is it just the continual overuse of antibiotics? They are not as innocuous. I like to tell my clients all the time, if they're not as innocuous as you'd like to think they are. Just because your vet hands them out at almost every visit for different things does not mean that is good for your animal, or not good for the fact that we are now creating even more disruption in the gut biome and more bacteria that need even more stronger drugs. Okay, and I just realized I didn't introduce myself. I introduced Tuesday Night Raw, but for those of you that are new here, I'm Dr. Andi Harper. I am a doctor of chiropractic and a certified animal chiropractor in clinical practice here in Denver metro area for the past 20 years, just shy of 20 years. It'll be 20 years in January. And so welcome. Again, like I said at the beginning, it's a Q&A. So pop your questions in there and I can stop rambling about antibiotics at any time. Or if you have an additional question about that, throw that in the chat and we can do that. I also headed over to one of my favorite websites, Dogs Naturally Magazine. I always check them out when I'm looking up something, whatever that is. And they went into the importance of the gut biome, right? The microbiome of the gut. And your animals have different microbiomes. There's a microbiome of their ear. There's a microbiome of their skin. You'll hear me talk about that. You don't want to disrupt the microbiome. It's not just in the gut. You have colonies. You have your microbiomes of different areas in the body. You have them in your respiratory tract, but the gut biome gets the most attention because essentially you have a good gut biome, you have a good immune system. They are more and more research literature in the dog world, in the people world, that they're interchangeable. Your gut biome is your immune system. Your immune system is your gut biome, and how diversified it is, how well populated it is with beneficial bacteria, gives rise to how good your immune system is and how well the organism functions in general. All right, so they're pretty interchangeable. And the microbiomes are made up of all kinds of microorganisms. You've got bacteria, fungi, viruses, they all live in there, folks, ours and your animals. Here, I'm going to read this part because this was awesome. Your gut's microbiome plays a key role, not just in his nutrition, but in his health and happiness. The majority of the immune system, like we just said, resides in the gut and is reliant on beneficial bacteria. They produce vitamins, they help in hormone production, and compete with harmful bacteria. So we want a diverse population of bacteria in the gut, and we want a vast number of the beneficial bacteria. And I think there's so many new advances in people. It's amazing, actually, on what we've learned in like the last decade compared to all the years before about the gut and beneficial bacteria. And I'm sure they're working on the same with dogs. So if you have a wonderful microbiome, it's well diversified, you've got a lot of beneficial bacteria, that microbiome, that immune system, right, is going to support and protect your dog. It's going to protect against pathogens like parvo, distemper, yeast, E. coli, salmonella, lepto, and Lyme. And that is always kind of the fundamental sticking point for me. Let's go with that. Is conventional medicine is very involved in their diagnoses and their prescriptions, right? You have this, you take this. But if you have an immune system, if we take a few steps back and we work on a fabulous immune system, and that's working well, that will protect you from these things. And you will protect your animal from these things. The immune system is designed to protect the being from pathogens, but it needs to be functioning optimally. It forms a protective barrier against drugs, toxins, allergens, carcinogens, affects your dog's mood, reflects stress, and can disturb communication between the brain and the gut. So that's also when you talk to raw feeders, meaning feed their animals raw, which I've been doing for approximately 10 years. And I know people that have done it longer. That real food, that it's not processed, and the body can use that better, and there's less carbohydrates. That gut, right, that digestive system is part of the microbiome, it's part of the immune system, which means it's going to talk to the brain. And when you feed a whole food species appropriate diet, you may also get better behavior out of your animal. Let me finish this, and then we have a question here from J&J Trucking. The microbiome produces vitamins, which help with the metabolism of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. They produce the microbiome helps produce short-chain fatty acids, and they're used for the absorption of calcium, magnesium, iron, and other minerals. So now we have mineral involvement, we have electrolytes, we have vitamins. You see how important all of this is. And the critical part of the immune system that holds the gut-associated lymphoid tissue, which is the GALT, is forming 90% of the immune system. So that, like I said, gut microbiome, balance, great diversity, a lot of beneficial bacteria is going to support the entire organism and their immune system. And so next time you're at the vet and they're talking antibiotics, ask some more questions. See if it's really necessary. There's a lot of things I read that just one round of antibiotics and the gut may not recover to where it was. Even if you are doing probiotics afterwards and possibly even feeding a raw diet, the assault can be that devastating. And that's just going to depend on each individual and what antibiotic and all of the factors, right? There's a lot there. But back to the original question, does getting a shot versus doing oral antibiotics affect the microbiome less? And the answer that I found was no. There was actually a study they did on rats. A lot of the studies were, does this antibiotic work better than this antibiotic? Which isn't what I was looking for. But this one was antibiotic therapy and the gut biome, investigating the effect of delivery route on gut pathogens. So there you go. And they did it on rats. And there was no difference in the depletion of the microbiome, the colonization of all the bacteria. There was no difference in the injection versus the oral route. The one thing they did say that it may suggest that if you do you do an injectable, the gut may be able to repopulate itself easier. That was the one thing that they did find in that study. And so that was very interesting. Okay, J&J Checking asks, my 2 beagles are on a raw rabbit and duck blend along with Chinese herbs and digestive enzymes. They seem to throw up fur at some point in the day. Any advice? Yes. I actually cannot feed that rabbit and duck blend. If it's the same one from Raw Dog Food and Company, which has the fur in it, I can't feed it to my little dachshund, Torchy. He will puke it up. The duck has a lot of fat in it, which is not necessarily a bad thing. The critters, your dogs just need to have enough lipase to be able to digest it, and not all dogs will do that. Plus, the fur can be disruptive because it's also a protein that has to be digested, and it's just, I think, different, right? And so I think they do have a little bit of trouble with that. I know a lot of dogs, my other 4 dogs eat it just fine. Like, we don't have a problem. They scarf it down and we don't have any issues. But for that blend, I do find that there are quite a few dogs do end up puking that up. Even though the digestive enzymes, awesome. Are they on rabbit and duck for a reason? Are they allergic to other meats? What made you pick that one? And if J&J is still with me, you can answer that. That would be awesome. But yeah, I actually tried that one out soon after I got Torch, because his diet at his breeders, and she is a raw feeding breeder. She does a lot more chicken than I do. She actually does a lot of chicken necks versus like a ground chicken, but her diet's a lot more chicken heavy. And so I'm like, well, that'll be a nice shift, like a little bit of still poultry and, rabbit, and hell, I think it was on sale whatever it was, because we got to buy stuff on sale too. And yeah, he puked that up terribly. But he turns out to be a puker. And I say that in jest, but we actually are dealing with a pretty intensive digestive issue with him. And if you've been following me for a while, you kind of know what's going on. But if he went to the vet, they would diagnose him with EPI, which I say it wrong, but you'll get the gist. I call it enzymatic pancreatic insufficiency. And actually, the E doesn't stand for enzymatic. It stands for something else, but it's pancreatic insufficiency. We don't have enough of the right enzymes. And so he started puking up on that blend, and then he was puking up another blend. And then, and then I threw in the digestive enzymes, and it's got better. And we're still working through all that. I'm hoping that we can get him off the digestive enzymes and get him regular. He's 10 months old. So he's actually back on chicken because I did want to lower the fat. So yeah, Dee Dee recommends variety. Absolutely. They just may not be able to handle that blend. And like I do rotate it with my other dogs. I think when it's on sale, honestly. Otherwise, we do a lot of beef. I do quite a bit of pork. I know there's so much controversy around pork, but mine do really well on pork. I occasionally do a rotation of chicken. We do a lot of turkey. Yeah, she's trying to make sure they have a variety in their diet, but probably won't get that one again. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. See? Smart cookie. She combined it with the Wolf Run Plus and seemed to have helped reducing it. Yeah, I don't know. It maybe it's just the high fat content with the fur. I don't know if you're hardcore wanting to rotate and try just a rabbit. So I know they have the whole rabbits, which I have not tried. Honestly, I know Dee Dee uses that with Lozzie and she eats the whole rabbit. I have not done that. You can try just duck. If you want to suss it out, you could go and just try duck. If they still puke, and then it's probably the high fat content. If you get just a rabbit blend and they puke it, then it was more of the skin and fur. Okay, so it might be the high contact of the duck, and it's just the enzymes aren't just not cutting it. How old are your beagles? And Wolf Run Plus from Raw Dog Food and Co. and Company is probably 2 and 3. So they're young. So they should be able to, yeah. Yeah, the duck just may not be settling well. And honestly, when I do the duck, I do probably split it the first couple meals with something else. Because I think my Doberman has had trouble with it in the past too. And that's, I think, part of what drives people a little bananas about raw feeding is, everyone wants just the answer, right? Do XYZ and this will happen, but you kind of got to try it. I'm sure there's certain foods that agree with you that don't agree with your husband. Like, is there any rhyme or reason? It's just that every body is different. Yeah, so maybe the duck doesn't go in rotation. But back to Wolf Run Plus, that's probably one of my favorites. I feed that one a lot. That one and the Senior Pro, which even at 2 and 3, slide that into your rotation because you don't need to be a senior for that. It's just got chicken feet ground up in it. So it's even more potent for the joints. A lot more cartilage and collagen all ground up in there in a real food format, which is always my favorite. I do use supplements, like we're using a lot of digestive enzymes with Torch right now, but nobody else is getting them, right? And if we can do whatever we can do with a whole food product, with a whole food source, that's always my go-to instead of going to a supplement. And I used to be that person, even with myself. I pull out 10 bottles of supplements and And it's really changed over the last few years, maybe 2-3 years, where I'm like, all right, what can we do here with a whole food product that maybe we don't need a supplement. She also says, I do supplement with chicken feet a couple times a week. Perfect. Yes, I do too. When they're in stock. I have to shout at Dee Dee about that. But they've been out of stock for a long time. I actually make bone broth out of them. Yeah. Out of the feet too when they're in stock. I also do duck feet. But also, just for the variety, it's probably going to be a little different for their system to work with if it's ground up in the meat. So, sounds like you're doing all the things there, J&J, tracking all the things. And yep, rotate. If you haven't, you got to get the duck heads. They rock. And I think that's probably my dog's favorite things. Although only the bigs get the duck heads. They're too big for my littles. Although I bet Torchy, even though he's just a little 10-pound dachshund, he's got a pretty big mouth on him. He could probably handle one. Although I'm limiting his bone at the moment just to make it a little easier on his digestive system. So instead of doing like a chicken neck or foot or duck foot, and we would do the same thing, 3 times a week, 2 times a week, whatever it would be. I've been using, I can never get the name of the company. It's 4-leaf rover. That's it. I always want to call it Red Rover. You know that game when you're a kid, Red Rover, send Mary over. I don't know why that stuck in my head. I've been doing their bone supplement instead of the real bones right now, just to make it a little easier on his digestive system. She says she also has a new local nose-to-tail butcher, which is so exciting. Oh, where are you at? I could use a new local nose-to-tail butcher. That's amazing. Emma's education adds what a conversation to listen to during dinner. Whole rabbit, chicken feet, and duck heads. J&J Trucking's in New Jersey. Darn it. Our butcher here is not nose to tail. And I got some things from him and I'm like, wasn't anything special or fancy. It's like almost like I can go to King Soopers. So I was a little disappointed. Although I've been ordering a lot more stuff, people meat online. I do have the Dee Dee local here, so I get to just pick that up. What whole rabbit? Who doesn't talk about whole rabbits and eating them during dinner? Come on, chicken feet, duck heads. I'm going to say it again. If you have not gotten the duck heads for your dogs, I highly recommend it. I've scared a couple different house cleaners with them defrosting in the sink because there's the whole eyeballs and sometimes the tongue is sticking out of the beak. It's the whole head, people. It's awesome, and mine love it. Thank you, J&J Trucking. Anything else, let me know. And just keep playing, keep trying things. And like you did, which was brilliant, instead of going, ooh, I have to get rid of this, she just cut it down with another blend that she knew her dogs did well with. People that, I don't know how they sleep at night, but the people that, either throw out the raw or, they give away like 10 pounds of it. I'm like, your dog might like that again in a couple weeks, or you can cut it with another blend, or, just keep playing with it. And you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater when you find a blend that maybe didn't work. Now, maybe you end up with 10 pounds of duck and rabbit. It's not going to go bad in that freezer. So you might slowly start, just mixing it in with other blends. Keisha Clark says duck heads would probably be the challenging part for me. The duck heads actually are pretty easy, honestly. It's just so different. I love the pork brains. Now, I have done the bull's balls. I don't know what she calls them on the website. She doesn't call them those. That might have been my limit. That might have been it. I only did that one time, and the casing around them is so thick and rubbery. It was I'm like, I couldn't figure out how to feed them. I couldn't chop them up. It was a whole thing. So I kind of had my limit there. But if there was a problem in that area with my dogs, you want to feed like to help support like, I would definitely get them again. But that is not Rocky Mountain oysters. I don't think she calls them that on the website either, but that's essentially what they are. Here. How to help a dog with diabetes and immature cataracts. Bison fries. Is that what she calls them? That might be it. I know, right? Well, the simple answer to dog with diabetes is you get them off of all carbohydrates, right? All processed foods. That means all the snacks in the house. That means all the treats that anybody can give them. And go raw if they're not already raw. Unfortunately, from what I understand with diabetes and the cataracts, because I have a girlfriend that has a dog that she adopted that was very blind already and had diabetes. She was a rescue. She had a couple litters. She had heartworm. She came up from Texas. She was diabetic. She was malnourished. She was underweight. Like the rescue put a lot of time and money in this dog, and she's super, super sweet. But from what I understand with diabetes, every dog that has diabetes will develop cataracts. It's just the way the excess sugar in the body glycates those lenses. And you get this coating of basically sticky sugar on the lens, and they need to pull that lens out. Okay, cool. Expensive surgery. They're worried if you don't do that, the dog will go blind. I think that's Dr. Andi is pretty low on the list because most dogs do really well without their sight, and they're not walking around going, my mean owner is not getting the surgery so I can see. So yes, they can go blind. They can go mostly blind. Daisy is mostly blind at this point, and she does really well. She still goes hiking off leash and greets everybody and knows where. I mean, she just does amazing. It's amazing to watch her, really. But they do worry about glaucoma. They worry about other diseases, and you need to get that checked depending on if you're going to do if and when you want to do the surgery. And your 14-year-old dog, you may not be doing the surgery. I believe Daisy's 4 or 5. At some point, she's probably going to have the surgery done. Okay. But the good thing I did learn, because that was my question to her, I'm like, okay, so if you go ahead and get the lens is removed, is it going to reglycinate? Like, is it really going to get all sticky again? But it does, the excess sugar in the blood, that glycination, I think I just made that word up, but doesn't stick to the plastic of that lens. So once you do the surgery, your dog can see, and it does pretty well. Now, there's always pros and cons to the surgery, right? There is, what's the word I want? Can be consequences of the surgery. So you need the ophthalmologist, you need to have a conversation, you need to weigh the pros and cons. And J&J's asking for a friend trying to help him with the corgi. That's a really good question. Is the diabetes reversible with diet change? And I said that to my friend with Daisy. I'm like, I wonder if we changed her diet, if we could reverse the diabetes, because she was super young and she was super stressed out. I mean, she was in such bad shape and so stressed out. And then of course she went into the rescue, and then she had to do the heartworm treatments. And I know they vaccinated in there somewhere, somehow, right before she was her dog. And so changing her to a raw diet did not affect her diabetes in that one case. But the assaults to that body were so much that I'm like, okay, I wonder how much less insulin we have to give her because she's on a raw food diet. And that we don't know, right? Like, what would her insulin be if she was on kibble? What's her insulin now because she's on raw? We have no way to evaluate that very easily. But there's so much talk and there's so much stuff going on the people side of things about reversing type 2 diabetes. Type 2, where you are producing insulin, but you're just, the insulin, that hormone is not working properly in the body. And in people, your carnivore, your ketogenic, your ketovore, your high fat keto diet are really changing that for people. But I also think there's a lot of work there and a lot of management and a lot of things that are just so hard with dogs. Like, I watch her try to get the glucose readings on the dog, and she's got a sticker in the lip. She bound her blood glucose is all over the place. She lives in the city, and half the time she finds some nasty, half-eaten, disgusting burger and swallows it, before mom can get to it. Like, there's just so many factors that I don't know if that is possible. And I'd have to do a deep dive into dog diabetes. I believe they work, similarly. As type 1 and type 2, like type 1 meaning juvenile, younger anyway, juvenile onset, where the pancreas is just not working. And that's not going to be reversible by diet. Now, if this corgi happened to have, let's say, a type 2 diabetes type going on, where the hormone, the insulin, and the body's insulin resistant, but the pancreas is still producing insulin, I wonder what a diet change could do. I don't even know if they can test for that in dogs. I think they just kind of assume they're all a type 1 type and they need insulin. I don't know. It's a great question. And I've been kicking it around for a while. I did an email to my group, which you can get on by going to animalmagiccare.com, and you can sign up for the email if you like to read stuff. Some people just like to watch stuff. And I tried to go down that rabbit hole of, insulin resistance in our pets. And, maybe that's a great question. Maybe I'll do a little bit more research. Is diabetes on the rise with our pets? Because I don't even know where we are with that. And if they're mirroring us and they're eating highly processed kibble for the vast majority, like the vast majority of us are eating a SAD diet, a standard American diet, and type 2 diabetes is going up, and overall we're all just getting sicker, unfortunately. And that's just really our food source, the lack of minerals in the soil, if we just go back that far. I wonder what the rates of diabetes in dogs is, and like the age that they're starting. I did not really go into like the testing and the numbers on that. So maybe we'll check into that for y'all. Either way, cutting out kibble and going with a species appropriate diet would be a good move regardless. Absolutely. Absolutely. She just, I rambled on for, 7 minutes, and she just did it right there. And I would go out on a short limb that he would end up using less insulin. It would need less insulin. It might be easier to balance the blood sugar on a species appropriate raw diet too. And if they're like me, which is the main reason I went raw, is I'm a control freak of magnitude. I want to know exactly what goes in my animals all the time, diabetic or not. And when you're feeding a processed diet, you have no idea where all that stuff is coming from. Yeah, I think it might just be easier to balance it all. How would you voice this to an on-the-fence pet parent? Yeah, you got to find your angle, right? Like, do they want to, because it's going to be more expensive and it's going to be more time consuming. It may not be that much more expensive, but it's definitely a learning curve. They're going to have to put in time. You know, is it going to come down to the money side of things? You know, like, do they see your dogs and how well they're doing on raw? And how old is the corgi? And I guess another question is, how much do they love and trust their vet? She says, I told him about the raw dog food truth podcast and have success with my own dogs. It's tough without abruptly shaking him. Yeah. And sometimes you can only do as much. And that's really the best way, is you third-party validation. Here, listen to this. Here, watch this. Here, this is what this person's doing. And you kind of got to leave it up to them. I like that. Abruptly shaking him. I usually go with throat punch myself. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if they also put them on some prescription food. Yeah. It's sad. And sometimes you just got to watch. All right. What else? What other questions out there, my friends? Otherwise, I'm going to talk about antibiotics again. I'm going to bore you with antibiotics. Gut biome, the immune system. Actually, I'm not going to bore you. I'm going to beat it into your heads, which I know most of you here listening are already on that boat. All right, keep trying. Yeah. Third-party validation. It's usually your best bet. Thank you, J&J Trucking from New Jersey. Lucky duck with her nail to toes. Sorry, nose to tail butcher. So jealous. So jealous. All right. Go back to antibiotics until you have another question for me. Okay, so antibiotics. Emma's education votes for the abruptly shaking him. Yeah. So antibiotics will also deplete vitamins B1, B2, B6, B12, C, E, K, inositol, and magnesium. Always forget about that, right? We talk about the bacteria. Any thoughts on how to get a dog to stop eating rabbit turds? No. Kill all the rabbits, and then you can grind them up and feed them. I'm kidding about that, but you technically could. That's okay. I guess it's pet peeve night. Okay. Rabbit everywhere, right? Running around everywhere. They breed like rabbits. And then when they go to grind them up, they throw the whole thing in the grinder. So, explain this to me. Why is ground rabbit so expensive for the dogs? That's my question. It's my question. It's actually one of the reasons I don't buy rabbit, because it just irks me. Just saying. Nothing wrong with feeding rabbit to your animals. I just don't get why it's so expensive. Okay. Anywho. Okay. I digress. She's getting ready to put the muzzle on the Chihuahua for her walks. Which I'm all for. Muzzle train every dog that you own. Muzzle train them. Muzzle train them. Muzzle train them. You never know when you might need a muzzle. And if they can do it without freaking out, it's awesome. Doesn't mean you have to use it ever in their lives, but muzzle train your dogs. It's just one of my soapboxes. Too many fleas. Well, they don't get the fleas from the poop. And if you ever listen to Dr. Ian Billinghurst, he's like, they should eat poop. That's part of their diet. They should eat poop. It grosses out the people. The people don't want them to eat poop. She's not going to get the fleas from the poop. She's going to get fleas from the rabbits. Rabbits are notorious for killing fleas. So if you have a flea problem and you have a lot of rabbits, blame the rabbits. Like how many rabbit? Okay, so this is a little dog. I do know Addie. How many rabbit turds is she eating? Wagyu. Okay, Jennifer B says, can I supplement human raw meat with the raw meat I buy from the pet store? Yes, you can. I'm not familiar with Wagyu beef, but J&J Trucking says it would probably be too high in omega-6. How could Wagyu be high in omega-6? Now you have to answer me. How is that possible? I'm being funny here. We're spending that much money on a beef. How could it be high in omega-6? What are they? I don't know. What are they breeding for in Wagyu? All the Wagyu is corn and soy fat. Are you kidding me? I guess, now that you say that, none of the regenerative farms that I order my food from grow Wagyu, right? Oh, that's so sad. Not that I've ever had Wagyu but oh, that's sad. Okay, well, there you go, Jennifer B. About Wagyu, we learned something new. But yeah, you can supplement just from the store here and there if you wanted to, a little ground beef or whatever, if you have some. Just, there's no bone in it, but you're already doing raw meat. So there you go. I'm kind of a little heartbroken. Thank you, J&J Trucking. Yeah, I'm with you, Keisha. She says, I've never been drawn to it, but I thought for the price they charge, for what they charge, the cattle would be pasture raised and fed. Yeah, that's true, isn't it? They do have grass-fed Wagyu, but the more intramuscular fat, the more unhealthy the cow, unfortunately. Yeah, that doesn't make sense, right? Oh, okay. Let's say it. Okay. But to answer the previous, yes, you can. Now, with that information, you choose on your Wagyu beef or not. Taco Boinkies Fug Up. Yes, she loves my lamps. Where are they from? I'm actually not loving them. They're a little bright. I haven't changed the lights out on them. And I don't even know where they're from. I did not order them on Amazon. I actually had to go shopping for them. But where did we go? Some home store. I'm not sure. All right. What else? Anything else? We're up at 43 minutes. We could probably call it a night. Okay, one last little bit about antibiotics because I want to. They'll deplete the vitamins, right? B1, B2, B6, B12, C, E, K, inositol, and magnesium. And then this can lead to a list of health problems, including anemia, diarrhea, behavioral changes, wound healing, poor immune health, oxidative stress, nerve degeneration, yeast, irritable bowel syndrome, leaky gut, and allergies. So that's back to our antibiotics. And so not only do they change the landscape of the microbiome by killing everything, including the good bacteria, and then repopulating that, which you should do if antibiotics are called for, and you need to do that with your animal. You do want to repopulate afterwards. It might be another lie that I've been perpetuating. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look that up too. All the rabbit holes, I'm telling you. Do you do probiotics during and after, or just after? Because if you do it during, you're kind of just killing all the probiotics off too. So My usual train of thought is just to do it after. And with your pets, you want to get the soil-based antibiotics out there. And again, red leaf rover has those soil-based probiotics. And you don't want to keep doing them forever. You want to use them when appropriate, like following antibiotics. I'm not a big proponent of supplements in general, and I'm not a big proponent of should they be on probiotics just to be on probiotics. The general answer is no. You want to have something maybe you're working towards or treating because you did do a round of antibiotics, or there was a really stressful situation, or they went through surgery or something like that. And then you do want to help the body repopulate that microbiome. And Keisha's asked me, did I hear you correctly earlier in the live that raw fed animals can replenish the gut faster in case of antibiotic usage? You did not. I don't know if there's truth to that or not. But what I was saying was that in the study done with rats, the ones that had the injectable antibiotics were able to replenish the gut faster than the ones that were given oral. That's what we were talking about there. And then I would assume, and this is, what assume gets you. But my thought process would be, it would also be able to replenish the gut faster if they're raw fed. They're going to get, the vast majority of the good bacteria faster because you're dealing with a whole food product, not an ultra processed hard nugget. We bring our dogs to swim once a week and have been listening to you on the adjustments. How often should they be adjusted? Well, they're 2 and 3. Swimming is awesome. So do they go to the lake and swim, creek swim, or actually at a pool, which it doesn't really matter. You don't really have to answer me. And that's awesome. At 2 or 3, and they're not having any issues, and they're in loving their swimming, and they're loving their walks, and they're doing everything at swim class. That's awesome. Every 2-3 months is usually, I tend to tell people with healthy young dogs, if they come in every season, in the beginning, that's going to set them up. Oh my gosh, it's going to be amazing for them. And it's going to keep their nervous system in tip-top shape. And then if and when they do get injured, they're generally going to heal up faster. So it doesn't have to be hardcore every month. A lot of times my seniors end up on monthly, seniors as in 10, 11, 12, 13, depending on how big they are, even, the Jack Russells that are 17 are coming in once a month, your seniors. So yeah, but every season should be fine. And then, and then I tell people, and then in between, if they do that crash at the dog park where you go like this, or they splay out on the hardwood floors or the ice, and you're like, ooh, that might be a good time to go into. So just a handful of times a year. Emma's education. Here's a question. If you want it, I started giving Addie the Healthy Gut by Adored Beast because we had it, and if to see if it might help with her itchy, yeasty feet. Okay. She says, okay. The second part is, I read that digestive enzymes can help kill the yeast. Since I've been giving it her, she has been burping more with a little lip licking. Do I stop or give it time? That's a fascinating question. Healthy gut. Gosh, I wish I knew the ingredients off the top of my head. My guess is her stomach's not enjoying the healthy gut, whatever it may have in there, because the burping and the lip licking would indicate, right, maybe some heartburn, some, GERD, some reflux, and the healthy gut her stomach may not like that. For whatever reason that is. I mean, every body is different. Yeah, I know. It's the one we talked about a couple of years. I can never remember the ingredients. Just give me a hard time. It's the one we talked about YouTube lives. I know. Was that the one with there's the one with the betaine HCl and then the probiotics. She's going to find the ingredients. Okay. J&J Trucking. The 3-year-old has a mild heart murmur, and the 2-year-old has fecal pain syndrome. Okay. For the heart murmur, there's a good chance that chiropractic, especially at this age, could impact that and change that, and maybe reverse it, but maybe stop it from progressing. Because when you adjust those upper thoracics, which is, so you have a cervical spine, you have 7 cervicals, you have 13 thoracics and 7 lumbars in a dog. And the upper thoracics, which are under the scaps, it's kind of C7 to T4 in there, really hard to get to. You can't get to really well with the scaps. I use an arthrostim to kind of get in there a little bit, and it kind of taps in there. I use a lot of adjustments with the rib cage to move those, but that area is the innervation to the heart. And so if we can keep motion in there, we can keep that moving, and maybe even if there are restrictions in there that's impeding the nerve conduction to the heart now, maybe chiropractic can help with that now and support the heart, because we've got lots of years ahead here, and that heart's going to need as much support as it can get. In that case, maybe that one is going in every other month for a little bit. But that one I would definitely get going. I have heard of beagle pain syndrome. I don't know much about it, and I haven't met a beagle with one. Great that you guys are swimming. So beagle pain, I don't know, beagle pain syndrome. I honestly, I don't know. So I'm going to have to see if I can find anything chiropractically related to that. But yeah, I've heard of it, but I've not dealt with it. So I don't have much for that one, I'm afraid. Anyway, back to Emma's. I have not heard that digestive enzymes can kill the yeast. I think the mechanism that could be going on here is if the digestive enzymes are helping the whole digestive process and helping the gut to be super healthy, and then reduce leaky gut, boost the immune system, then the immune system is going to be able to handle the excess yeast if it's present. So I guess a roundabout way, digestive enzymes can help kill the yeast, but it's not a direct digestive enzymes go and kill the yeast. The digestive enzymes help the support system, help the digestive system reduce the leaky gut, improve the immune system, and therefore that and the body can handle the yeast like it should, instead of the yeast being able to overgrow. That would be how I think that would work. Jennifer B. Yeah. I don't see why you can't give some human meat, as long as you're doing the other stuff that has the bone content. Kitties do. Look up eggs with kitties. I think kitties require some eggs. You could maybe, even if you can get some, if they'll do it. Cats can be so hard. You could even grind up some pasture, like farm fresh eggs, eggshell. I have some in my freezer I've been meaning to grind up. You don't want to grind up the shells from the eggs from the store. They're sprayed with stuff. I don't even know what stuff. They don't tell you. But you can grind up some eggshell powder and put that on, the meat from the store. In addition to whatever raw you're also doing, you can do that. Oh, Keisha got the Felix's Flora for her feline babies. Well, that's so cool. I haven't seen Wagyu at Costco. Damn. Have to check. Okay, so I have a question for Emma's education. So burping and lick licking. Is the yeast getting better? As the feet, what is she doing? Is she eating her feet? Are they pink? Are they? Right, Keisha, you'll have to, over the next couple lives, let us know how Felix's flora is going. Fecal pain syndrome. They are reddish. Okay. So Emma Education says she chews them constantly and intensely. They are reddish. Okay. Yeah, we may have to sit down and. Okay, she's only been doing the healthy gut for a couple days. We may have to sit down and doubles in the details on what she's eating. And this is since you adopted her, right? Okay. Well, we know Addie came up from Texas and got all the things from the rescue she was in. And she's been raw fed since she's been with Emma's Education, which has not even been a year, I believe. Maybe a year? How long has she been there? And then, yes, it's all 4 feet. Yes, it could be environmental, right? Okay, that's what you were doing the Chinese herbs for. Okay, she's always chewed her feet. Chinese herbs for itchy, but doesn't seem to be helping. Oh, you got her the day Torch was born. Okay, so it's coming up on a year on January, what, 7th or 8th? One of those days? Okay. All right. New project. Addie's itchy feet, huh? We have so many, 8th, okay. So many itchy dogs here in Colorado. And I do wonder, because I have a St. Bernard client, sweet old man. I think he's like 8 now. He's huge. And he licks and bites his feet like mom wants to strangle him. But he's only been with mom 3 of those years. And before that, he was on Apoquel and, all the vaccines all the time. And most likely, I pretty much guarantee he was kibble fed. And we just try to keep the chewing and all of that to a minimum. But, can you bring the assaults to the gut biome back from all of that? The damage may just be too far gone. I'm not saying that's the case with Addie, but I do know these other dogs that are constantly chewing on their feet and they do all the things and they're feeding the raw and they doing all the supplements and we haven't figured out how to change it. And it's frustrating for the pet parents and it's probably hard on the dogs too. All right, Jennifer B, let us know if she likes her grass-fed beef. Yes, and thank you, J&J, for the Wagyu information. Much appreciated. Yeah, and the Adored Beast healthy gut, like Keisha said, maybe you could try less. Keisha says she's seen a few cases that it takes a long time for the shift to move through, like a long-term detox. Absolutely. I think we, as people, we want things done much faster than it's going to take, and we run out of patience maybe right before the finish line, right? Okay. Well, I wonder. So, Emma's Education, I also do my best to soak her feet in apple cider vinegar after walks, but I'm not good about being consistent. I just switched to diluted iodine today. Yeah, you have to let us know how that works. I have not played with the foot baths. I currently do not have any feet issues with my animals, knock on wood. But yeah, let us know how the iodine goes. We don't see that very often, right? The Epsom salt baths, we see a lot of the apple cider vinegar or the iodine. I know Dr. Becker likes the iodine wash. I don't know about the Epsom salt. It's interesting. I don't know. Suppose we could try it. I did, when Little Miss Molly Brown, my dog, was itchy a few summers ago, we did Epsom salt and hydrogen peroxide rinse that we left on her. That's when we thought she actually had mites, which she didn't have mites, and she got very angry at me with all the baths and the rinses and it really impacted our relationship. It took a while to get over it. So yeah, right? No, that wasn't Epsom salts. That was borax. That was borax and hydrogen peroxide. I'm not saying you do this, Emma's education. I just was correcting myself. That was more for an all over body soothing. So I don't know about the Epsom salt. You'd have to look that up and investigate that one. But let us know how the iodine goes. We are at the top of the hour. Any last quickies out there? All right. I will not be here next week, but I have a special guest host. Her name is Neely Piazza, and she is probably the most brilliant raw feeder I know. Like, she knows all the things. And she just completed a homeopathic certification, so you can ask her about homeopathic remedies too. She is spicy. I think she's flat out hysterical. And if you want a straight shooter, you got to get back here for Tuesday Night Raw Q&A. Next Tuesday, the 1st. She will also be here on the 8th. And she's going to be hosting because I will be out on a trip. And so you have to come over and check her out, like the streams, ask her your questions, have her feel the love. She also is a consultant for Raw Dog Food and Company and Co. And she's a really good friend of mine, and I'm so grateful. Yes, bring the corgi friend that's on the fence. Yes, get him to the live next week somehow, some way. So she'll be here the next 2 weeks covering for me. So bring your questions. Let's see. You can get on my email list if that's something that interests you, animalmagiccare.com. We can do a one-on-one food consult there. If you have more chiropractic questions, we can do a consult on that too. Although I find those personally frustrating because I love to talk through all of it as I have my hands on your animal. So I know not everybody lives in the Denver area, but those are a little rough for me. I'm like, I want to know what's going on with the dog because I can only speculate. And I'm pretty good about, patterns and what's usually setting up. But if you need some direction in that realm, we could do that too. And then if you are in the Denver area, you can make an appointment, fill out the new client form at animalmagiccare.com and set up the appointment. I'm booking out about a month, partly because of this trip, partly because of holidays, partly because there's a lot of dogs. You're very welcome. I am so grateful you guys came and asked questions. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit here with my antibiotic notes and ramble. And that's not that much fun. So I love it. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you got one little tidbit out of there. And I will see you in a few weeks. And we'll go from there, right? Is that it? I think that's it. Okay, until next time, how much fun can you have with your animals? Bye.